all of you to see the fundamental difference between DOI and maybe other political parties. We are operating on the basis of two principles. One principle is the principle of ensuring that the people, the members, decide, just like the citizens of the country decide who becomes their president, their National Assembly member. In DOI, the members decide who will stand. And when they meet in their community, if it is councillor, National Assembly member in the constituency, the whole nation, president, and they decide, the Central Committee can only ask technical questions. That is, if there are queries by others and you need real clarification whether the decision was harmonious or an election took place to select and it was fair, those are the technical issues that the Central Committee would raise in order for the members to look at an issue, and when they come to a decision, the decision is accepted. So it is difficult for us to say right away, these are the areas where they will put mayoral, mayoress, council, chairperson seats. We cannot answer that question at the moment. So we have separated two elections, and we will be waiting to see what the members say. And once we know, we'll convey it to you. We are definitely not leading from the front. They are leading from behind, as far as this matter is concerned. All we do is to guide them. Number two, you will see that in the council elections, the age variation is becoming very distinct. And many young people are offering themselves for representation. And we hope that they will learn from this to grow more and more, to know exactly what it means to represent the people. And we are confident that that policy of DOI, of separating the state from the party, where we prepare people, whoever they may be, for state responsibilities. And we create possibilities for anybody to contest for seats, will actually create a new democratic atmosphere in our country. In the past, people were talking about how can young people participate in DOI activities and be seen? How can women participate in DOI activities and be seen? All of a sudden, they realize that as far as the party is concerned, it is training leaders. When you become a member of the party, you are just simply being trained to become a leader. Leader in your community, leader in the country, a person of service. But no status is attached to being a member of the Central Committee or being a Secretary General. Nothing is attached. Because it does not guarantee you that you will be a presidential candidate, you will be a National Assembly candidate, or you will be a chair or mayoral candidate. Because all those are determined by the members themselves. Because you are being prepared so that once you assume state responsibility, you will know that the party prepared you to serve the Gambian people, and they will judge you by your practice. Thank you for that question.
What is your opinion about that?
Yes, we have two issues there. There is no doubt that Section 26 of the Constitution emphasizes that everybody has the right to elect or be elected. to public office, to stand for public election. But if Section 170 imposes that unless you are given leave of absence for 1 year without pay, you cannot stand, how many people would be able to do such a thing? And of course it has affected two candidates of DOI who were very promising as far as the report we received is concerned. But when it came to the final phase, that they have to write to resign, then they felt that, well, that was too much to ask. And there are many people who are now in the public service, who are competent, but who may not consider public office of that nature, by virtue of an electoral nature, by virtue of that law. Obviously, the law should be revoked, meaning amended. But why am I hesitating amendment? Because that was not our objective. It's not piecemeal amendment of all these laws, which we have already identified over the years to be against the principle that we stand for, the democratic principle of freeing the person to represent his or her people. And if you look at Section 130 of the Elections Act, which was a decree, it was election decree, and it is saying then that if you are intending to stand for election, you will be given leave during the period of the election with pay, and you have a right to return. Because when we were drafting the elections decree, those who were in power were not really involved. They were engaged in a contest of doing something that was seen to be better than the people that they have removed from power. So they were not very vigilant. So consequently, read that election decree, which is still your Elections Act.
Section 130.
And you see, yes, and you see the content. The powers it gave for people to be able to participate in election. In fact, the code, which was a subsidiary legislation in August 1996, still the code, election code, had all the areas that were of concern. Patronage was criminalized. Intimidation criminalized. Coercion, which is intimidation, criminalized. Giving gifts the same. So the law really encapsulated everything that was criticized in the past, including the creation of an independent electoral commission. We did not have an independent electoral commission. DOI was fighting for that to happen. And in the memorandum we wrote to the Electoral Review Committee, led by Sadio Sonko. How many of you know Sadio Sonko today? Nobody knows Sadio Sonko. Is Sadio still there? I hope that he's still there. Because anything could happen. That's how many years ago? Almost getting to the third, 1996. 27 years ago. He was the head of that committee. And they drafted the elections decree, taking memorandum from all those who were concerned in order to craft a document that was fit for purpose, still used up till today. And that's what we used to remove the head of state who was here. But some do not want the people to understand what the democratic forces did at that time. But we will explain it. It will not be hidden. When those were active, combating, building, now they want to put all that under the carpet. It will not be there. You will unearth everything. You will know what happened, how hard people work to turn events and put the country back into the hands of her people. So that is the reality. I hope that we cannot talk about amendment. We need a new constitution, a constitution of the Third Republic. That's what was promised. I hear people, you were in the National Assembly, why didn't you change all the... Who want to change laws piecemeal? When we agreed 3 years, we changed the constitution of the land. And you're not asking those people why they have not acted in accordance with what we agreed. And you would not have been having the type of constitution you have or the electoral, anything that you see today. But that is the reality. So we can either change it piecemeal or we change it by coming up with the constitution of the third republic. And we hope that will be, because that's really what we fought for.
The role of the opposition, civil society, and the government should be in this regard.
As you see, conflicts need very mature treatment. Because when they confligate, the problem widens to the widest space. We've gone through an impasse. And you can see how the impasse was handled. I don't think you've heard us calling on opposition parties in any part of the world to come to our aid. Did you?
No.
Well, we had to look at the problem from two angles. One, our internal situation, and the other, the issue of international politics which deals with this state. So that the logical conclusion will be to end conflict and allow the people to take charge of their electoral process. What can happen and what anybody in the opposition would be willing to do is to mediate. But mediation, you do not just get up and go and mediate. First, you must be accepted by those who have a conflict. They must be ready to listen to you. And then you begin to work on what the differences are and how to narrow it to the point of ultimately guiding them to accept to live in peace. I believe that there are competent people who are most willing to do that. But I believe, fundamentally, the government is responsible for what happens in the Gambia today and is capable of engaging in international relations. Nothing prevents the government from getting in touch with the government of Senegal to indicate that it wants to send a group from the Gambia to really help to look into their problem and see how we can assist. So if that is done, and I'm sure any member of PDOIS is asked to be part of such a delegation or any other party, I would believe, people will be proud to go to mediate. So I hope that offer will be there in the public space, and that is the way to go. But denouncing and talking, at the end of the day, you are not helping. In fact, you are clouding the atmosphere in another country. We would not have wanted that to happen anyway. What we would have preferred is to be in charge, and if there is going to be external activity, it must be a ECOWAS activity that's powerful. It must be a UN activity that's powerful. These are international bodies established to deal with international peace and security, or continental peace and security, or sub-regional peace and security.
The second one. The second question is, of course, you touched on it a little bit about your retirement. You said you retired from seeking political office, but we have not seen any concrete moves in the PDOIS in changing its leadership to reposition their next heir to the throne. When do we see Halifa move into the background to give way to a new, younger face of the PDOIS?
Thank you very much. I was in NAC. Nobody asked me to move in the background. I was the coalition spokesperson and the spokesperson of the President of the Republic. Nobody asked me to move in the background. So there is no need for anybody to move in the background. We cannot do that anyway. You see, when people make contributions, it has to be recognized whether you like it or not. And whether you want to be there in the public space, you will be there. Nelson Mandela was in the public space until even now he's still in the public space. So don't think about moving people out of public spaces. Number two, I'm not sitting on a throne. I am suffering. I have suffered for how many years? So, and when I mean that suffering is, what is the gain of doing this speaking? Have you followed our history? We see I think we are a little bit slacking right in this history. We must, we've gone into the countryside. We have slept on grass mattresses. We've been bitten by bed bugs. The worst condition that the people have, we have slept there. We've traveled with buses. We have traveled with donkey carts. We didn't have money at the beginning. We went into the countryside, and people used to say, these people do not want power. We go to Bantabas and speak to the people, and knowing that they will not elect us to office at that time. Why did we take all that task to be here today? We did not do so to be on a throne. We did so to be able to eradicate the poverty of our people. The term that I use now, born in poverty, it originated from Wulli. We went to the Bantaba me and Senior. And he was speaking. A person who is a peer, a farmer, came from the farm and he was rushing. And when he came, he listened and Senior spoke brilliantly. In the language of the people, those who say that don't speak above the people understood the language better. Because we spoke the language better than many people. I would not say better than the people. They understood the language. And after CDF finished, he came and they greeted, and he was laughing. But you can see the clothes were torn, tatters. Barefoot, feet chapped, hands calloused. You cannot say that it was the same age group as Syria. No. Because of what poverty has done there. And he said, Syria, it didn't kill all the man city. Niman Jawara man on that. Fire Jawara man on that. That time they used to call this too smart, they'll give this. And he was joking. I was looking at this man from top to bottom, and he did not understand that my heart was broken. But he said, so you're looking at me? What I say is true. If he does not bring Jamba man in his language, then...
I said, actually, I don't like the man is looking at me.
He thought that maybe I'm looking at him with scorn for what he was saying. For me, I was looking at him with sympathy and said, look at this man. This man was born in poverty. He is now living in poverty. He will go old in poverty, and he will die in poverty, his children in poverty. I'm looking at this man with those eyes and that heart. But he thought that I was looking at him with scorn because of what he was saying to Syria. Where is he today? So we are not on a throne, but to tell you the process is that a person occupies a position based on election of a Congress. In actual fact, I have a 4-year term, but I have another duty. If I stand for election, and I stated everything that was clear in my heart, and the people heard, and they tell me that you're a finekon. Guy yep and down you're a finekon. Food them guy yep and down you're a finekon. Everywhere, nowhere in the Gambia have we went where we have gone, where they did not actually indicate something of that. Which means that Halifa Sallah is known everywhere in the Gambia, contrary to what we used to say in the past, that they are not known. So if those people decide to give me 32,000 votes, fine. What am I going to be there for? To appear that this is a career? You will lose the essence of what I was fighting for. So I'm not going because of age. I am going because I don't want people to lose sight of what I was fighting for. And by going, my voice will be amplified. And people will hear what I have said. That is the objective. So Doi will hold its congresses, they will select their leaders, but we know one thing: knowledge is not based on age or gender. There is no democracy in knowledge acquisition. You have to struggle to learn, to research. And those who can lead society out of poverty must have the knowledge to do so. So those who degrade knowledge, look at it with scorn, will continue to be the wretched of the earth. And that's why we are where we are up to now. On electoral conduct, we'll be propagating it, and it will answer the issue of patronage. The issue of what you call outsiders interfering with what you call Gambian elections is a very complex issue, extremely complex, and your leaders are not interested in solving the problem. From the First Republic, Second Republic, until now. And when I say leaders, I'm putting you, all your political leaders are not interested in solving the problem. It's a blanket statement because we should debate on this issue. We started the debate in the First Republic, and the problem would have been ended a long time ago. Let me give you an example. There should be no country without proper registration of birth and death. In the First Republic, the 1965 Constitution, it stated that the Gambian citizen is one who is born in the Gambia with one of the parents born in the Gambia or naturalized. Then it goes further that you can be a Gambian citizen through marriage. And you can also be a Gambian citizen through naturalization. But in that constitution, it also says, those people who were born in the Gambia prior to 18 February 1965, of parents who were not born in the Gambia, could go and be registered as a Gambian citizen. That was not communicated to those people who lived during that time. Suppose at that time that was communicated, and all those people got registered to be Gambian citizens in 1965. and then their parents naturalize to be Gambian citizens, and you have proper registration of birth and death, how can you have a problem of anybody infiltrating your system of birth and death? But the First Republic failed on that score. Then when the 1970 Constitution was coming into being, this is where you should have addressed the same thing, by still having that provision so that people will be registered, who were born here will be registered by 1970, and their parents could have naturalized. That also did not happen. But they continued to give people natural identity cards, voters cards, everything, and people continue to be born in the Gambia. We all know that if you're born in the United States, born in many of these places, you're considered a citizen. It is because how their laws evolve. If we had done that, then we'll not be talking about this problem now. That's why I'm saying we are all to blame in the sense that we should explain things clearly to the people. When we explain clearly to the people and explain to those people who could also naturalize, and all of us work together to ensure that those who have the qualification to naturalize will naturalize, then you can have a good, clear template. All those who have the qualification to naturalize will naturalize by a given time, and by their naturalization, their children will automatically also become Gambian citizens. And then it moves further and further, and we ensure that there is proper registration of birth, and then it will not be possible for us to have this problem. But the advice is that supporting anybody to come to power will not mean that that person will support you to be free from poverty. You will live under the same conditions that all the Gambians are living. So that does not save you from any situation. And that does not save you also from being harassed here and there when they discover that you are actually a Gambian citizen. So of course the advice would be any wise African will know that we should move ahead in Africa to another level where the continent will be a home for all of us. But we've not reached there yet. But gradually constitutions can move towards that direction rather than engaging in a real conflict among ourselves based on our national origin. That is not what you've seen the site in South Africa. Is that what we want in the Gambia? Is that what we, of course, you don't want any of that in any African country where by virtue of the nationality of people, you harass them, brutalize them, and subject them to all sorts of degradation. That's not what we should work for, but rather a national consensus of how to address this problem once and for all. For patronage, for coercion, well, it's against the law, it's criminal. It's criminal, pure and simple. And we will do all we can to explain to the people what the codes are and why they are criminal in nature if you engage in coercion or patronage.